Yeah, so as far as the drum room goes, yeah, back in 2018, I finally moved into my own house, and I had this spare bedroom, and I live alone, so um, I took it upon myself to. I literally built this. This is a fully insulated. I mean, the walls are like 6 inches thick. They're insulated. It is a box. Like I can literally, I can touch the walls. It's pretty small, but it works. It does the job. It is pretty insulated, and the neighbors don't complain too much. So, but it was a journey. You know, I had to think about logistics and how to build all this. You know, I designed out the floor plan in Photoshop, and then took it from there. You know, first time doing drywall, first time doing all this stuff, but yeah, it does pretty good. I got air ducts, one on the top to let the hot air out, one at the bottom to let colder air in. This door here, it actually is my main door to out into the other areas of the house, but that thing when it's shut, yeah, I put a decibel meter outside the house just to kind of test what it was, and yeah, it wasn't even picking up on decibel meter. So I was picking out the outside noise more than it was in here. So, but I have to be honest. Normally, I play with the door open, but it's still very well insulated, and it does a pretty good job.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters on That podcast. I'm your host, Brian. Joining me today is our fellow drummer, James Myers. How you doing, brother?
Doing good. How you doing?
Not too bad. And I saw, based on your logo, I saw Lions across the top right there. Actually, I don't think you're wearing the hat right now, but you big Detroit Lions fan?
Yeah. I'm actually from Detroit, so I don't really watch football all that much, but always represent the hometown, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, you got reason to celebrate at the moment, but let's hope they keep it going. Let's hope they keep it going, to be honest, because actually, I have their tight end. I have Laporta as my tight end in fantasy football, so I'm hoping he tears it up this weekend.
Okay, yeah. Let's hope they keep it going for sure. Absolutely.
But you know what? The thing I don't understand was they put Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of the fantasy lineup for running backs. They put him well ahead of David Montgomery. So now you see Montgomery tearing it up, and Gibbs is not doing hardly anything, to be honest. So.
Oh no.
It's a little bit of a drag, but it's always good to see Detroit's doing well too.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Yeah, it's good to hear for sure.
Yeah, but here's open. So I guess how you been recently? How's the weather up there?
Yeah, just living the dream, man. I've been pretty good. Weather up here is right now it's pretty moderate because I'm in the drum. No, I'm just kidding. It's pretty good. It's been in the 60s and stuff like that, so not too bad. Yeah.
I'd say this week it was actually in the 80s, so made for some good walking, to be honest. So I don't know if it got the same way out there as Detroit or no.
It did get warm a couple of days ago. Yeah, it did. Yep. I remember that. I don't get out much because I'm always in the drum room.
Yeah, that's our gym. That's our workout area right there.
So. Exactly. Yep.
Absolutely. Actually, I would say my experiences with Detroit have not been the greatest because I don't know how many videos you've seen, but I used to do Q&A videos, and I actually did a little vacation vlog where I talked about my experience of coming into Detroit because we were supposed to fly out of Detroit. It was meant to be for a connecting flight. They land us in another terminal. We only had maybe a few minutes to get to our other airplane that was in a different terminal on the other side. So I'm sprinting like Usain Bolt to get to the other side. So
yeah, the DTW is quite the terminal, quite the airport. Yeah, I've had to do that a few times. It wasn't fun.
Needless to say, we made a nice action movie too. And you know what? If I would have thought about it, I would have probably turned on my GoPro, just had it hold it right in front of me the whole time to show me kind of running through the airport and everything too. So,
It's like Superman, just woo.
something like that. Otherwise, we could have said Jason Statham or something like that. So,
Fair enough.
all right. So, James, welcome to my podcast right here. The way this is going to work is just going to ask you some simple questions. We're going to get to know you more both as the drummer, but also as the individual too. So, hope you had time to review. So, you ready to roll?
A review it is. Let's do it.
All right, let's jump into it. So, tell us a little about yourself. Who is James Myers, and how did you become a drummer?
I began drumming pretty much when I was in diapers. I mean, not really, but I mean, my dad had, my dad had a kit at his house in the basement, and he would take me down there, set me on his knee, and I'd just go crazy like a kid all over the drum set, and he'd work the bass drum and all that, and then I think that was like my first memory of a drum set. And then when I was 7 years old-ish, I don't remember exactly, when my parents got me a little toy drum set, and I kind of went through that pretty quickly. You can't really buy like replacement heads for those things or anything like that. So unfortunately, that was the end of that after it kind of got ruined. Then once I got into junior high, I started, I took interest in band class, and I started working with the band. The requirement for that was snare drum. That was concert band. That was it was like 7th grade. And then, I took lessons briefly for a few months there when I was first picking that up, and started to take it a little bit more serious. And then I stopped taking lessons, and I continued throughout junior high and high school with band class. I played the lead bass drum, the biggest bass drum, and I also did concert band as well as marching band in high school. So that was timpanis, bass drum, cymbals, whatever they really needed me for. It was a smaller band, so we kind of moved around a little bit. All that time while I was in high school, I got into a few local bands, one of which was just me and a buddy jamming. We did our thing. We played talent show and stuff like that. And then, pretty much, that's the background on it. I stopped playing for quite a few years, probably about 8 to 10 years. I wasn't really able to do so. And then, I got back into it back in 2018 or so. And started playing more and decided, this is something I should be doing, because I know I'm not too bad at it. So, keep playing drums, whether I'm recording or not. I just need to be playing drums. It's good for you, man. It's a workout. You're using all your limbs. You're working your mind. You're learning things. It's just an awesome thing. And even if you're angry, whatever the emotion may be, you're angry, hit them harder, take that frustration out a little bit. You're happy, you just want to groove and jive. That's cool, man. So that I fell back in love with it, from playing again in 2018 there, and just been playing ever since.
That's good to get you back into it too. Actually, were you self-taught at any point? Because I know you said you gave up lessons. I guess, did you try to self-teach yourself at certain points?
Like I said, I only took lessons for a couple months when I was little. It was just small little local shop, and I was probably 10, 11. Oh no, I actually don't. I don't know exactly how old I was. I want to say somewhere around that age. But then I remember there's also the junior high phase, so it was somewhere in there. I don't remember, man. It's all foggy. only for a few months, just on the lessons, and then otherwise self-taught. Yeah.
I see. Actually, my story's always been funny, but I have told this in other interviews, but mine was actually through Rock Band. I don't know if you ever played that, to be honest, or
The game.
yeah, the game, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
I was like, that's how it started, and then that's how I started doing the electric sets, and because my parents were not going to approve of like an acoustic set, to be honest, because I don't know how well your installation is, but it looks like you got yours like all boarded up right there and everything too, though. So I guess we go ahead and jump into it. I guess talk about your room right there, and then we can jump into your drum set.
Oh, well, first let me ask you, how long were you playing? Well, when did you start with the Rock Band?
Well, let's see. I was actually a strings guy in the beginning. I was
Okay.
actually a cello player and a little bit of bass. Not double
Okay.
bass, but your standard bass guitar.
Bass good. Okay.
Yeah. But I never really fully got into bass. I know my dad, he was really into it, but he just did like cover stuff. He and one of my uncles, they just goofed around doing like Black Sabbath sort of medleys or something like that. But I never fully committed to it either, because it seemed like when I was taking lessons, they were doing more with the fingers and then what I call the slapping with the thumb and everything too. It wasn't really like try to do everything both with the fingers but also with a pick too. So I stopped doing lessons with that. And then when I went off to college, it was they didn't have a strings program, so I gave up cello, and then I just never really picked it up afterwards. So I sold that. And I think it was around high school when we finally got the Rock Band, and of course we started off doing the guitar because it's almost like chicks dig the guitar player, to be honest. So there was that. But eventually, I don't know what it was that really made me pick it up. I think I just wanted to try something new. But my throne, I just put towels underneath it too, because I would like sink real low. So I was like sitting like real low like this, trying to like play it. So
Yeah, when those knees are up, it's a little bit hard to use that bass drum.
what was that too? You could like do like maybe a whole taps like something like that too. So I did
Yeah.
that. I did that for a little while, and like Rock Band 3, that was when it at least started including a hi-hat, right, and at least one crash, to be honest. So it was that much there that my parents realized this wasn't really a fad, so they just said like, hey, do you want your own drum set? It's like, sure. But they didn't, like I said, they didn't want to do the acoustic sets, so we decided to go find a drum set. Fortunately, we found one at a store that was not too far away from my house. So
Okay.
and the rest is history. So
Have you ever played acoustics?
I have a couple times actually. There was one with like I tried out for like a cover band the one time and did it a couple times, so it wasn't too much of a culture shock. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, so as far as the drum room goes, yeah, back in 2018, I finally moved into my own house, and I had this spare bedroom, and I live alone, so I took it upon myself I literally built this. This is a fully insulated, I mean, the walls are like 6 inches thick. They're insulated. It is a box. Like I can literally, I can touch the walls. It's pretty small, but it works. It does the job. It is pretty insulated. And the neighbors don't complain too much. So, but it was a journey. I had to think about logistics and how to build all this. I designed out the floor plan in Photoshop, and then took it from there. First time doing drywall, first time doing all this stuff, but yeah, it does pretty good. I got air ducts, one on the top to let the hot air out, one at the bottom to let colder air in. This door here, it actually is my main door to go out into the other areas of the house, but that thing, when it's shut, yeah, I put a decibel meter outside the house just to kind of test what it was, and yeah, it wasn't even picking up on decibel meter. So I was picking out the outside noise more than it was in here. So, but I have to be honest. Normally, I play with the door open, but it's still very very well insulated, and it does a pretty good job.
So yeah, you got pretty much booked to the T, to be honest. That's pretty cool. And I guess, how close are your houses together to your neighbors? Is it like one of those suburban sort of style houses?
Yeah, my neighbor's driveway is like 3 feet from my window here, from my outside window. Um, and the next one is probably maybe 10 feet over. So yeah, they're pretty close. I've definitely had my issues. um, but it is what it is. I'm allowed to play and you know, deal with it. I guess I don't mean that in a mean way, but you know, I'm allowed to have my fun too. Come on, you know.
Well, man, I need to have some fun every now and again too. That sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess where'd you get the neon sign right behind you there?
Oh yeah, I just got that recently. That was a custom sign. I ordered it online. I obviously I designed my logo in Photoshop or Illustrator actually, and then I sent them the Illustrator file, and then they turned it into the sign. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I like that thing. Yeah.
You know, it kind of looks deceiving. I know it's meant to be like the M, but it kind of looks like an I right in the middle there. So it's almost like Jin or something like that.
You know, at first the J didn't go all the way around, and it had a dot on the top, so it almost looked like an IM style a little bit, like the Detroit style lettering a little bit, if you will. And that was kind of the idea behind it as well, a little bit.
That's pretty cool. All right. And I guess we can go ahead and jump into your drum set right there. I guess how long have you been rolling with this one? Is this a relatively new one, or is this one you've been rolling with for a good while?
So this is my Pearl. I almost said Pearl Export. This is my Pearl Session Studio Select right here. I got this. It's on my YouTube channel. I did an unboxing video of it. I forgot what the date on that was. I feel like it was about a year ago or so. Yeah. It's a Pearl Session Studio Select, 14 by 6.5 inch snare, 10, 12, 16, and 18 inch floor toms. Obviously it's a small room, so I use a rack to eliminate stands and cymbals, for cymbals and stuff like that. I'm using a Pearl Demon Drive, direct drive double pedal, a custom 14-inch hi-hats, 20-inch a custom ride, 17-inch K custom, 18-inch K custom, 18-inch sweet K Sweet, 18-inch A custom crash. Those are crashes. 20-inch A custom China, and this is a 10-inch A custom Splash. I have more of the kit outside of the room. I just can't fit it in here. So I do have like a much larger version, but for the sake of the room and me being able to move, I just play with this here. Gets the job done.
Absolutely. Like you actually said you have multiple drum sets. I guess, do you have any one that's like an electric drum kit or anything?
Yeah, I don't actually have any electric drum kits. All my drum kits are acoustic. I have a PDP Concept Maple, which I bought a few years ago when I first started doing drum covers, because it was $700 for a 7-piece kit, and it was a maple kit, and it's a lacquer finish. So, I mean, that was pretty good. What I didn't like about it was the fact that it had the kind of the Tama DW mounting system for the toms, and the respect that the toms really moved a lot. And I mean, that's fine, resonance and all that. But there's just something about it to me that I didn't really like the toms moving like that. Also the hardware on it, it just wasn't, I felt like I could kind of like twist a rim like this pretty much. It's a little flimsy in that sense, and nothing. I mean, it's a great kit, like I said, lacquer finish and everything. It's awesome, but yeah, Once I stepped into this kit, yeah, it was a night and day difference. These excuse me, these toms here are mounted with the Pearl gyro mounts, and they stay locked in place. They don't move when you're hitting them. So that's a big benefit to that. Not only that, overall in general, this kit sounds so much better. I still have it. What I actually did was I put the Remo silent strokes on the kit. The silent stroke drum heads along with the low volume cymbals. So that's kind of my practice kit, if you will. But I don't really need to practice as far. Okay, I do need to practice. I don't need to. I don't need to practice with the low volume kit.
I was gonna say practice pads, but
yeah, because it's just me here, so I don't really have anybody to worry about in that sense. And my neighbors, you can. Yeah, I normally just play with the loud kit. The silent strokes are for there's city ordinance, so 10:30 at night, you're not allowed to play any louder. So that's when I pull out the silent stroke kit. And then I also have a Pearl Export 25th Anniversary Edition, which is an all-black drum set. That's the kit that I started doing drum covers with. That's actually my first kit, my first real kit that I got as a kid. And that kit played a lot of shows. That's another one of my pride and joy kits. Because it's obviously a 25th anniversary edition, so it's kind of a little bit more rare of a commodity. I have looked it up online, and it's not to say that you can't find it, but everyone that I do find is typically like this one's got all black bass drum hoops on it, and the ones that you find online will normally have the wood hoops with the black line in the middle, and so I can't really find it as much online, so I just kind of, I keep that tucked away now.
Yeah, I know you talked about your neighbors, but I guess how is life in Detroit? Because it always seems like they paint a bad picture of it, I guess, ever since like the auto industry kind of left, to be honest, so I'm not sure. How has it been?
You mean in terms of like...
I think I like Four Brothers, too. I don't know if you ever saw the movie with Mark Wahlberg and some of those other actors in it. It always seemed like it was like crime-infested, kind of run down. Maybe not slum-related, but it's just not really a place you want to live in. But it painted a bad picture of Detroit, I guess. What's been your experience of Detroit?
Yeah, it depends on where you live. I mean, if you're living in Detroit, then yeah, most likely it's going to be a lot more rundown. I hear from a lot of people that like all the, for lack of better terms, all the like the hippie type hipster people are like moving into Detroit into the downtown, and they're like building little farm houses on like the abandoned lots and stuff like that. So I mean, hey, that's cool. But as you get into Metro Detroit, it's really spotty. You just gotta pay if you know the area. You know which towns to look out for, and what areas to kind of watch. There's bad parts and there's good parts. You could be in Rochester Hills, which is like one of the richest cities in Michigan, and then you drive a couple more miles and you're going right down into slum areas. It's really spotty and whatnot. But I mean, I've lived all over in Michigan. I've lived in Detroit. I've lived right next to Detroit, and I've moved out from there. I recently moved from Pontiac, Michigan, which is actually like 45 minutes away from Detroit, and that was the same thing. I could hear fully automatics going off every day. My car, I was, parked in my driveway all the way up past the gate to go into the backyard there, and my car was still broken into. I would go up to the gas station, and obviously that's it's not, it's not like some of the really bad places that you see on, some of these videos and stuff, but I've had people walk up to me and they were, gone a little bit, and they asking me for stuff, and I've even had people like threaten to beat me up because of the shirt I was wearing. I was wearing an Eazy-E shirt, and he was holding a skateboard and he was skateboarding, and so that resonated with me, skateboarding and everything, and Eazy-E, come on, who doesn't know Eazy-E? And so to me it was really no big of a deal, but yeah, you walk there and they didn't really like that too much. You just gotta watch where you go. There's nice areas and there's bad areas.
I think that's how it is really, like any city you really go to. I'm sure you could probably point out with New York or even the city I'm from, with Pittsburgh too. I know that's kind of how it is. I know, like with like the steel industry kind of leaving too, it affected some areas. So
yeah, I've actually had friends that I know, Discord servers and stuff like that, and they've been like, oh, you live in Detroit, what a I don't know if I can swear, but what a heckhole, or whatever, and I'd never want to live there. And I'm like, well, what about like Houston, Texas, or Memphis, Tennessee, or any of the other same type of areas? It's the same anywhere, right?
Pretty much. Actually, it's okay to swear too. It's all right. The kids are not watching this too. It's like, okay. Kyle, do not watch this video. Too much swearing going on here. All right. Well, it's good to see you okay too. I just wanted to make sure too, because it's always a bad stereotype, at least these days too, and they'll always point out rising crime with like big cities, for instance. Probably more so Chicago, if anything. So
yes, yeah. This area I'm in right here. It's when I first moved in, it was relatively nice. There's been a little bit more of a rowdy crowd. That's kind of they've built a bunch of newer houses in here, and they've moved in a lot of lower income people. So it got a little bit more rowdy. I have recently heard gunshots go off for the first time, and I mean, you also have like the hick type people too. I don't mean that in a bad. I mean that in a really good way. But for lack of better terms, the people that are like, they got their shotguns and they got their guns and they're very patriotic and stuff like that. So there's definitely those types too, and sometimes when there's some substances involved,
weed,
people
yeah.
Well, even drinking. People do some silly stuff, So I think that was that may have been one of the occurrences that I heard that go off. I don't know 100% for sure, but yeah, if I had to guess.
I don't become between a man and his beer that much. But it's good to see you okay there, mate. So hopefully you stay safe. Let's hope it.
Yeah, for sure.
Worst days are behind us at this point. Dark days are behind us. How about that? There we go.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I try to keep it positive for sure. Yeah.
That's good. I want to go back to your earlier point, because I know when you talk about frustration or happiness whenever you're playing on drums too, I want to say, like, we're drummers. We're able to hit things legally, that sort of thing too.
Right.
So I guess we can go ahead and jump into some of the gear you've been using. I guess since you already talked about your drum set, I guess, what microphones and then what camera are you using?
Yeah, so that's switched throughout the years, but currently the main camera that I use, that's sitting right next to my webcam currently, is it's the secret sauce. It's a Nikon Z30, a mirrorless, camera with a 10 millimeter lens on it, not the stock lens, because obviously this room is so small, and that's like a DSLR basically, and you know, lenses on those, a 22 to 55 millimeter lens is just not going to cut it in here. So it is using a 10 millimeter lens on that, and then which I think the next step down. It would be an 8 millimeter lens, which becomes a fisheye lens. So this is just a couple millimeters above fisheye. So it kind of gives that like that effect that you see in the video. And then behind me, I used a Nikon 5600 DSLR, and that also uses a 10 millimeter lens on it as well. So as far as cameras go, that's it. I do have like a slider. That's what the main camera sits on, because obviously nobody can stand in front of my drum set to, like, you know, do anything. And I live by myself, so if I can give it some sort of effect, I figured I'd get a slider and kind of make it work. As far as mics go, Snare uses a Shure SM57 on top and bottom. Toms, oh boy, you're gonna make me think about that one. I probably couldn't tell you what those are without referring to my notes, but I have. I want to say it's a.
I was saying about your notes right in front of you, so I'm glad you had it right there. So.
I was trying not to bring those up.
If you need to pull it up, that's fine. Go ahead.
I think it's a Shure Beta 98 AMP. I think that's what it is. Yeah, because this one over here is a little bit different. It's the same microphone on top, E/C. And then over here is another Shure SM57. Bass drums using a Beta 52A in the front. Overheads, I'm using SE Electronics SE8 Vintage pencil condensers. And then usually, I don't know, you may have seen the big microphone that sits behind me in my videos. That's sort of my room mic, if you will, and that is using that's a Warm Audio WA87 before the first revision of that microphone. Now that I think there's like a R2 and stuff out. So yeah, I think that covers all the microphones. I think I use 11 mics in here. And then all those go down into, you know, when I first started, I used to have my mixers, my interfaces up here, but I moved those for aesthetics underneath my bass drum, which is probably not, or a floor tom, which is probably not a good idea because it's probably rattling the crap out of everything inside of it. I'm fully aware of that. But two Focusrite 18i20s, bridged together, chained, whatever that's called, so that I can have two 16 XLR inputs. I'm using 11 out of the 16. I have more mics. I think it sounds really good in here for what I'm using for the 11 mics, so I just kind of roll with the 11 mics right now. I mean, always could use a mic near the ride, you know. You could mic the bottom of the toms. You could add another mic in front of the bass drum. You could go on for days with that sort of thing. But yeah, that goes, yeah, like I said, into the Focusrites, and then that goes into FL Studio. I use FL Studio as my kind of my recording DAW, if you will. I was familiar with it, and it was the only one that I could find that kind of had like when I got this Focusrite, it came with Ableton. Well, Ableton gave me 8 tracks. Well, okay, that's cool, but like I have 11 mics, so I won't be able to fully mic up my kit. So then I tried out a couple others, and it was sort of the same situation. I kind of felt like either that or it was like a monthly subscription or something like that. Whereas FL Studio was like unlimited tracks, and I was like, boom, there you go. Because I mean, like, what if I got past 16 tracks, for instance, and I wanted to add a guitar, a bass, a rhythm guitar, vocals? I wouldn't be able to do that with any of those, other DAWs. So I rolled with FL Studio. Yeah, that's pretty much the chain of audio going up into there, and the cameras and stuff. And then obviously there's 2 large panel lights and then 2 little lights that come off here. And if I turn any one of those on right now, it's just going to give you way too bright for the camera, for this webcam. But the DSLRs and the mirrorless cameras, I have the ISO turned all the way down, so it's a little bit darker of a look, but it's really bright. Yeah.
We'll say the light catches every pimple, zit, and all sweat stains as well coming through too.
Yes, it does.
Okay, speaking of which, I know I kind of commented on your Day to Remember cover, which was the downfall of us all, and
yep.
I was to say, like, since you were sweating pretty good, I assume like he must have did a good number of takes just to get that whole thing down too, I guess.
Boy, I tell you, it takes a number of takes. Yeah, that's a word for it.
Do tell.
Yeah, no, I like to listen to the song for like 3 days before I even attempt it. But then, yeah, with this being a 6-foot box, it's a hot box, right? So, I mean, you come in here for 5 minutes and you just, you play a simple 4/4 groove and like an AC/DC or something, and you're sweating in a matter of minutes. And especially when the lights come on. Whew, so it gets really hot in here instantly quick. Like I said, within minutes, it's hot in here. And I'm starting to already show sweat. But that doesn't mean that I still don't, it takes me anywhere from, 3-4 tries to I've done probably 60 tries. And I've done actually, because of the way the room works and everything is so hot in here, what I have to do is I have to kind of break a little bit. So I'll come in here for like 30 minutes. The camera records for 2 hours straight. So I'll come in here for like 30 minutes, attempt to play it. And then if I don't get it, I got to go out there. I got to take off the hat. I got to chill, let everything cool down for a little bit. And then I come back in, try it again for another 30 minutes. Repeat the process. There's been a few times where it's been a couple days where I've repeated that process. So that can tell you how many times I play it. And you think about it, like, a normal band set on stage is 30 minutes. So, you're putting in a whole full set within 30 minutes, just trying to play one song and get it right. Yeah. It takes some time sometimes. But sometimes I can get it right away. It just depends on the complexity of the song, obviously.
Well, say, what are you really into? Are you like, it seems like you kind of jump around your genres, but you're kind of in the rock, alternative, and maybe a little bit of metal, or I guess, what do you really dig?
Actually, I can't play really fast metal. But I mean, I'm absolutely, I love metal. I grew up, my dad listened to Pantera, Metallica, Megadeth, all those types of bands. And so that's what I kind of grew up listening to with my dad. And then as I got older, I got into the, I listened to ska, punk, and then got into the emo scene, to the emo days. Listened to like the post-hardcore stuff. Chiodos, all those types of bands. I just released one of those on my channel the other day there. Trying to like slowly, I know a lot of people don't like screaming and stuff, and some people love it, and that's great. And those that don't really mind it, and that's awesome, but if you listen to the full song, you know, it's screaming and singing and whatnot. So I try to keep it a little bit. I try to keep in mind who I'm playing for. You know, there's a lot of diverse people that play all different genres, right? So I try to keep it to rock and sort of like rock and metal and stuff like that. But then, you know, hey, if someone came to me and was like, "Hey, let's collab on this song," and it wasn't rock or metal, well, hey, I'm always down to, you know, collab and do something. So I guess, hey, if that, you know, that opportunity presented itself, hey, I'll do it. Yeah, I have no problem with that. But when it comes to me actually releasing things, I sort of look at it as like, let me give you a little taste of what I like, and also here's some stuff that you definitely like as well, within that like rock and metal genres. But like I listen, Suicide Silence. Oh man, the list goes on, right? Slaughter to Prevail. Even Rings of Saturn and some of the like technical death metal and yeah, I definitely jump all through those metal genres. And then yeah, some of the metalcore and stuff like that as well. That's where I like to kind of like focus, I guess, if you will.
I would say whenever I do try to do my own drum covers, I like to listen to it a good number of times and feel like, okay, can I do this? If it's not like one of those ones that like excessive blast beating like for so long and everything too, then I feel comfortable. I think I could do this, that sort of thing too. That was actually why I was gonna say that's why I picked Bolt Thrower, because they were more the doable sort of death metal bands that I had listened to too. So I actually did that whole Fourth Crusade album too. So that was actually one of my proud achievements. Actually, I would say one of my proud achievements. So
yeah, that's a good one for sure. Yeah. You know, there's definitely stuff that I would love to play that I can't fully play yet. I openly admit that, but well, you're just practicing, and that's only making you better. So, you know, at some point in time, you'll probably be able to play that. You know, maybe those songs like 94 Hours by As I Lay Dying. You know, I'd love to be able to play that really fast part, and I'd say I'm probably like 80% there. I could play the rest of it, but yeah, I can't play that part yet. So it is what it is. I play what I can play, and as long as I can play it like 99%, maybe like one crash or something gets out of place or I'm accepting of that. But yeah, it's got to be pretty. I got to be able to play it.
I would say, yeah, I think I did critique your one. You did Paranoid from Black Sabbath. I think in the beginning you were slightly off. I would say that, but then you definitely got back on track too. So that's off to you, man. It was a good job.
Was it?
For me, it sounded like it was off, like at least in the beginning wise. Then everything else had like got back and he got right into the groove. It was all good afterwards. So.
Oh, it was. Well, actually, it's all on time.
Was it?
Yeah.
I guess I just have a bad year then. Okay.
I wouldn't release something if it wasn't in time or it didn't. Like I said, I'm a stickler. Obviously, you can tell by like the quality of everything that I put out. Like if it's not on like 99%, and I'm like one crash, if I miss it or didn't hit it right, okay, that's fine. But as long as like I'm staying in time, I hit most of the hits. Maybe I missed that one crash or something, or I did Avenged Sevenfold, Shepherd of Fire, and at the end there's like that tom groove that comes back in, and I got the whole song. I nailed the whole song, and I get to that tom groove right at the end because you know you got to count and wait for it's a little bit of a pause there. And you come back into it, and hopefully you land on it on time. And you know, I flubbed it a little bit, but I came back on it, and I was like, all right, well, I'll let that slide because the rest of it was on point. And that's, yeah, it's, I'm really a big stickler on that, man. If I can't play it, I'm not gonna release it because I don't want to make myself look bad, right? So
I would say I was a little bit of a perfectionist too, if that's kind of the word you're kind of trying to avoid too. But
yeah,
I would say I was trying to do a couple of Silverstein songs. I'm just thinking like, I just need to get as close as I can. But I use MIDI, so I pretty much got it as close as I could, at least to what I could do with my ears and everything too. That's how I do it whenever I try to do my drum covers too. I try to do the best I can by ear, and then try to replicate it as best I can. So it's more of like ears open, that sort of thing. So
yep, I do it by ear as well. That's how I play. I can read sheet music, obviously. Like I said, I was in band and all that. But it's faster and quicker for me just to listen to it and kind of hear what's going on in the song and make it happen from there. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you did talk about, I guess, some of the bands you've been a part of too. But before we jump into that, I guess, what brand are your sticks?
These are Vader 5A. Well, these are classics, but Vader 5A Classics wood tip. I try to just stick to those 5As. It doesn't matter really the brand. I do try to stick with Vaders, but Vaters. Let me get that right.
Vater. It's Vater.
Yes, I do know that. But I played Zildjian 5As, ProMark, all the Vic Verse and every. I probably even have some Vic Verse sitting here in the stick bag right here next to me. Whatever's on sale and whatever's a 5A, if I can get it, I'm pretty much cool with that. I do like Power 5As as well. Those are pretty cool because they're like a little bit heavier and like feels like in the front end a little bit, which allows you to really get it in there and whatnot. But yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I can't tell you. Sometimes people have pronounced it Vader. It's meant to be Vater. So that's all right. But you at least corrected your mistake too. I was getting ready to yell at you not too long ago. So
I figured you might, so I figured I should correct myself sooner rather than later.
I'll say, speaks du Deutsch? That sort of thing. So, all right, that's pretty cool. All right, so let's jump into the bands right here. I guess, was this just all cover groups? I guess, who are you all a part of?
So actually, every single band that I've been a part of has never been a cover band. One. But the rest have all been original music. My first one, like I mentioned with the talent show, that was a jam buddy, but we didn't really play any shows or anything. We did the one talent show. Otherwise, we played in my parents' basement. We did write our own music to that. So the one song that we fully managed to get down, we played that. That's the one we played at the talent show. But that guy ended up going off to the military and whatnot. Had different priorities. Then after skateboarding and hanging out with different crowds and stuff like that, I met another guy who played bass guitar, and he sort of introduced me to like a whole band, if you will, of people he knew that were ready to make a band. We went over to the Screamer's house. Screamer, I call, the vocalist that screams. I call them Screamers. Some people are like, I've never heard of a Screamer before. But it was a Screamer. So yeah, we went over to his house. He had a full house, so we played in the basement. And it was just like original jamming, like metal, like chugging and stuff like that. And we were just like breakdowns and just rocking out like that. That spiraled into probably my biggest band that I was in. We had probably 3 albums worth of material before we ended up breaking up in 2010. We only released 1 CD of those 3 albums of material. And we've played all over Detroit, St. Andrews, all the big venues and stuff like that. We did VFW halls. We rented out VFW halls for ourselves, and we put on shows in VFW halls. We eventually grew into doing like little mini tours, if you will. That's what we called them. We were still kids in school and whatnot a little bit. So on the weekends and stuff, when we could, Friday after school let out, we eventually made it up to where we got like a couple cars and stuff, and we shoved all of our gear in the cars, and we'd like go up Upper Michigan, or 4 hours away, 5 hours away, and we'd hit a few spots, over the weekend, and play like 3 or 4 shows over the weekend, and then come back home for school and whatnot. That was a pretty cool one. But then after that one broke up, I tried to get some other ones going. I was in one for a little bit with a few other members that were also in a few other larger bands locally, and I got along with a few of them, but I think we all sort of had like creative differences. One guy wanted to do this, indie stuff. One of them wanted to do post-hardcore screamo stuff, metal, and I was down to just play, really, but my style was a little bit more on the metal side. So it didn't kind of really, it was cool because it was kind of like a Chiodos in a sense, where like you have that mesh of metal and then indie, and then it goes from the Craig Owens really high vocals down to the screams and gutturals and stuff like that, and it was sort of like that, but because we all had our differences. We played a few shows, and we did actually probably write 6 songs or so that I helped write. That was all original music, but that didn't last very long. And then I tried to start some more bands. Nothing really major panned out. There was one that I was part of that I started very briefly. It was sort of another situation. The guitarist was a younger 15-year-old female at the time, and she was into like Paramore and stuff like that. Whereas the screamers, we had a screamer who was obviously into like Every Time I Die and The Chariot and just real chaotic stuff that obviously that didn't go very well with Paramore type stuff. But we made it work, but we played a couple shows. We went up north and stuff. And then after that, that was really sort of the end of it, because I tried to get stuff going, but I just couldn't. No one around here, everyone was starting life. So it was difficult to find people that were actually dedicated to it, because out of high school, I graduated in 2005. I didn't really go to college, and I was really just dedicated to the bands. That was up until like 2012, 2013-ish. But yeah, life kicked in, and then I moved into an apartment. I didn't have the money for an electronic kit. Had to put the kit down, start life, Yeah,
there's a time when life tried to hit you in the face, sort of like to say too. Like I said, do you still try to do this as a career with drumming, or I guess do you try like multiple jobs? I'm not too sure.
Well, I do have my full-time job. I am a full-time designer, lead designer at where I work in a corporate gig. That's full-time and sometimes extra full-time. So when I get the opportunity to play, I'm always practicing. I actually, from obviously playing an acoustic kit, my neighbor heard me play, and he plays guitar. So currently in the living room, I have a half cab sitting in there right now, and we jam out sometimes when he comes over. I'd love to get in a band or something again. I'm down to always try it out and see where it goes. Hey, I'd love to do that again. But reality is money makes the world go round, right? So we all got to have it, unfortunately. And so my full-time job's always going to be like my full-time job until I know that whatever I'm doing with drums is making more than my full-time job. So as far as that goes, that's probably I like doing the covers. I like making original music. I like jamming. I like doing whatever. So, whatever comes of it would be great. Like I said, playing with a band again, cool. Like, I'd love to do that. I'll make time for it. But I do get pretty busy with work, and then when I'm not busy, I am working on a song or cover or practice or whatever the case may be. Pretty much. Yeah.